And here we go. Welcome back to NTWorlds. New stream, new teams, new action. And we'll have some new people joining us on voice. And of course, Carter will be sticking around with us. Hi, I'm Rich Slayton. Coming up next, Portugal against Finland. After that, the Netherlands faces off against Germany. This is NTWorlds. So here's our schedule so far for the day. We already saw Italy take out Serbia, and then the UK falling to Turkey 2-1. So Serbia and Italy, or Italy and Turkey both going through, Serbia and the UK both going home. But our Elimination Monday is not done yet. Portugal needs to beat Finland to stay alive. But even if they win, their fate is not in their hands. Germany against the Netherlands would then be an elimination match for the Netherlands and potentially for Portugal as well. So very excited to see that one happening. Joining me on voice, two players who have a lot of experience in competitive Clash Royale and in CRL as well. Carter coming back onto the stream for this next match, and it's going to be a three-man booth today for these games, because also coming in is Clash Royale League player and high-level analyst Trainer Dippets. Guys, welcome. We're going to see Portugal versus Finland. Dip, Carter and I were talking a little bit before you joined onto the call, and Carter didn't really recognize much of this Finnish roster. Are there any guys here that you're familiar with from Finland?
No, I don't know any of them.
Well, there you have it, folks. So a pretty well-known Portuguese roster. The Finnish roster, not very well known on the overall competitive scene. You know, they would love to get a win here for both personal and country pride, but it's going to be a very difficult task for them. Lucas, of course, has been great for Portugal in the past, but hasn't really been needed for Portugal so much throughout this. It's been a lot of derp, who's done a ton of great work for his squad, and their 2v2 duo has been taking care of business as well. Of course, Portugal, one win, one loss, needs to try to sew things up today to keep their squad alive. And taking a look at some of their results so far, Lucas did come out and get a 1v1 win. Here we go into 2v2. It's going to be Jebus and Vitor up against Aki and Rossi, coming out for Finland. Let's go ahead and take a look at those lineups. So talking about this 2v2, Carter, are you still with us? Or I know your mic was off for a minute.
Yes, I am. I'm here still.
Excellent. So we have a more experienced 2v2 duo out of LA Gaming. You can see even in their player tags, Jebus and Vitor both have quite a bit of experience, and they've been pretty decent so far. They've had their struggles. They have not yet been able to get in the win column on their 2v2, but they've had good performances overall. You have to expect they'll take out this Finnish side. You know, this Finnish squad is learning 2v2 for the first time. So, Carter, I want to bring this question to you first. What's it like when you're first trying to develop as a competitive 2v2 player as opposed to just 2v2 playing at home for fun?
I mean, it's a big difference. Just there's a lot of communication that's involved, and just teammate synergy, and it takes a lot of time to really develop that type of synergy at a high level. So definitely not an easy task for this Finnish team to come out here in this competition and perform against, you know, people who already have experience. And I'm not maybe these guys do have some experience in 2v2, but definitely not at a super high level. And I know these guys from Portugal, I'm pretty sure they both played in CCS. So I mean, it's definitely very, very difficult for the Finnish squad. Interesting ban though, the Miner, not something that you see super often, but definitely a really versatile card. So I like the ban for sure.
Yeah, that's an interesting 2v2 ban. We saw it a bit in CRL, not a ton, but seeing it here banned by the Finnish side. And, you know, talking about your communication, that I actually really like that ban for a less experienced 2v2 duo. because trying to work on your communication, not having to worry about who's doing the minor catches and communicate that does take some chaos off the board for the Finnish side.
For sure. Interesting to be seeing log bait in 2v2, just like standard log bait here with wall breakers thrown in the mix. But you know, NATO and minor ban definitely a good set of bans for it, but not sure how strong log bait is.
We've seen a bit of this deck showing up in 2v2 so far. Now, Trainer Dippet's also joined us on the call, who's an expert analyst. And, you know, you've had to prepare analysis for a lot of different situations. What do you do? First of all, you're trying to prepare 2v2, which there might be a little bit less data on it, but especially against players like this Finnish squad who have a lot less competitive data available.
Honestly, with them, I would kind of just ban like a card that, like Tornado, which is what they did. Kind of makes it a bit easier for, I would say, a more skilled team. And then just try to run an all-around solid deck. And I think at the end of the day, a good team like Portugal, if they play well, they'll win most of the time.
So here we go. Mega Knight moderately healthy, but Dark Goblin finally gets down to take that Baby Dragon off the board. Portugal currently in the lead, but not by an insurmountable margin. The Finnish side has gotten on tower a little bit, running double Ram Rider. And Wall Breaker's right-hand side, nothing to pick them up. One Wall Breaker, no, does not connect. Baby Dragon does its job. So Royal Giant, Mega Knight behind to the left-hand lane. Mega Knight in response. And so this is really interesting. This is sort of, we do have more spells than you would see, but a 2v2 take maybe on the little Chen deck. And so far working very well for Portugal. You know, as a 2v2 player, Carter, you mentioned the sort of being surprised a bit by some of these baity aspects coming in to 2v2, but what do you think about mixing it into the sort of this little Chen construction?
Yeah, so actually I remember actually in the Western Finals, Morton and Sam pulled out a deck, something like this. And it's definitely very interesting. I haven't tried it personally, but especially with these bans, it seems like a very viable option. And in this match specifically, them having double Mega Knight against the double Ram Riders obviously was super nice. And then just, you know, Finland having arrows but not having a log or you know, another really good answer. It was not easy for them, and you know, they didn't make the plays necessary to win in a, you know, kind of difficult matchup like that.
So we get a comment in the chat, minor ban equals no wall breakers or Lava Hound, and as you can see, the wall breakers did make it in. So a wall breaker bait sort of variant on that little Chen idea, Mega Knight, Royal Giant. No, I don't think I saw a big spell in there, so let's take a look at that. We'll take a look right now to see if there was a big spell in that deck. And there was one, the poison. That was it. One poison played on the side of the Portuguese squad. And you can see again from the Finnish side, able to get a few Ram Riders down, never able to connect, never able to get the Lightning into the mix. So Dip, as a trainer and as a coach, as an analyst, what kind of advice would you be giving the Finnish side right now after the situation they found themselves in against Portugal?
They did a lot of double committing that game. Also, I saw, but after this Portugal deck, I would definitely try to run better spells than arrows. I think log is very important in 2v2.
Why is log so important in 2v2?
I think it's better to have cheaper decks because you get elixir slower, and like one of them had poison, earthquake, snowball. Other one was lightning arrows, just really heavy on spells, which I think is really bad for cycling, and it just leads to just bad situations, which is what happened to them.
Well, you can see, talking about that very specific issue, both of those players unable to get one of their spells down. The earthquake never getting in play, and the lightning never getting in play. Obviously, with being against this sort of swarmy deck out of the Portuguese side, lightning maybe not as viable, but yeah, as you're right, a lot of really heavy spell play from the Finnish side. And here we are, game number 2 of 2v2. Portugal up 1 against Finland that has yet to find themselves in the winner's circle. And Magic Archer Magic Archer is a really interesting card in 2v2. Carter, obviously, you've encountered this on both sides of the board. It seems that with the guarantee of a big spell like a Fireball or a Poison being somewhere in the 16 cards of your opponent's deck, that Magic Archer is going to always give not just direct value, but then value elsewhere. Why is the Magic Archer still so good and so popular in 2v2?
Yeah, I mean, Magic Archer is just, it's very versatile. You know, you can really space it out from your other units. Pretty much every 2v2 deck is going to have multiple targets for Fireball and Poison. So, you know, if they're poisoning the Magic Archer, then maybe they can't poison the Musketeer or something like that. And then, obviously, just getting some snipes on tower in a close game can be a really big difference if given the opportunity.
And taking a look at this Finnish deck, they're going with a bait variant themselves, and not dissimilar to what we just saw out of the Portuguese, although Hog Rider in most likely instead of the Royal Giant. If it's in addition to, that could be crazy, but so far working out for Finland. Right-hand tower down to 566, and a well-timed Earthquake Hog push does get some damage for the Portuguese side. Barrel in way to the back, and not a lot of elixir available right now for Portugal. Tower down right-hand lane. Mega Knight gets its leap, and right now Finland looking like they could get on the board against Portugal in 2v2. This is that Giant Skeleton Lumberjack Hog Rider combination, but what we haven't seen yet is putting together that actual push, that three-part push. I don't know if either of you have much experience playing this deck, but what is the actual, like, how do you want to build that sequence? I don't know if either one of you wants to take this one, building that sequence of the Lumberjack, the Giant Skeleton, and the Hog Rider together.
Yeah, it's really tough to build that sequence against a double Mega Knight deck with Goblin Cage like he has, or like Finland has, I mean. But, I mean, they really need to get off a big freeze or something in this matchup because, you know, just spamming the hogs is not going to work.
Not able to break through as Portugal. Finland gets on the board. That's a big one for the Finnish side that has struggled top to bottom in this tournament. I'm just double checking here. That is not the first game win that they've had so far in the tournament. It's their second game win in the tournament at this stage. So Finland getting on the board against Portugal. And, you know, as we've seen before, if you win 2v2, anything can happen. Now, George, as a coach, you look at that Finnish side, you know that they felt confident with that deck. Of course, you might be worried here that Portugal goes and tries to counter that. Do you tell the Finnish side to go back to that one more time because they played it well and they played it confidently? Or do you look at these less experienced players and tell them to run one more different deck?
Honestly, as the Finnish team, if I remember correctly, I think both of their wins might be with some form of bait decks. So I feel like that's their best thing, and they should either try a different variant that they might have, or just stick with it. Staying with the same deck in 2v2, especially with some bans, isn't a bad play, because in this match, at the moment, it's 2-0,
So here we go. Gonna get into game number 3. You can see, even with the 5 Hog Riders, even with the Earthquake, unable to break through was the Portuguese side and really get anything on that right-hand tower. Bomb tower never getting in the mix either for Portugal. So on the back foot the entire time. Finland getting their second game win, and would love to get this set win and give themselves a good shot in that 1v1 if they win this set. Obviously, anything can happen in 2v2 and King of the Hill. We've seen it before. Of course, trying to get through this roster when it gets into the head-to-head play going to be a very tall order for the Finnish, but they've done the most important thing. Got win number 1. So we just saw 2 different looks of this sort of same construction, and I'm going to go to you, Carter, first, and I'll come to Dip about this. What are your thoughts on this concept with Royal Giant versus this concept with Hog Rider?
I think I like the Royal Giant a little bit more. Obviously, it depends on the matchup, but in 2v2, I think that there's a lot of answers for Hog Rider, and it's a lot easier to stop a quick Hog Rider push than it is like an RG push with a Mega Knight down and, you know, Goblin Barrels and all that kind of stuff coming in. But both seem pretty strong with the double Mega Knights. So it's going to be interesting to see if they're running it back or what they have in store for this team.
George, what do you think? Same opinion? You like the Royal Giant version better?
Yeah, I would say Royal Giant. Hog is much easier to stop, like you said, especially they only need one building, and this might be Graveyard. That's my guess. So
Out of the Portuguese side.
Yes.
Barrel in, arrows immediately counter, even trade 3 for 3. And a second barrel comes in. And look at that. So you see the bait aspect. Wallbreaker's going right-hand side, picked up by the Goblin Cage. EU is left-hand side. So Finland trying to go high pressure. Going with the same idea from the last game. And both teams resetting here for a moment. Finland just going very, very aggressive. And we'll see if this turns into a big counter push. And you had it right there. Trainer Dippet's calling the poison. They're calling the graveyard out. Poison meets it immediately. Giant Skeleton Nightwish run into the bomb tower and the high rascals to keep that Giant Skeleton as far away from the tower as possible. First 2 minutes away, and at the moment, it's the Finnish side in the lead in this game, although very, very low on Elixir right now. Carter, would you be taking your foot off the gas right now if you're Finland, or do you keep the pressure on?
I think with this type of deck, you have to keep the pressure on to some extent, but definitely probably want to take it a little bit slow here. Portugal definitely made a smart deck choice here with having arrows and log and snowball and Mega Knight. A ton of good counters here for all the bait that that Finland is going to have. So it's going to be tough for Finland to make a large connection in double elixir. And with poison as their only spell, they're not going to have a lot of reach to finish the game off.
Hog Rider right-hand lane gets its first connection, gets a second connection as well. Night Witch, Giant Skeleton, Graveyard into the right-hand side. Rascals down. Girls with the Goblin Gang all the way in the back trying to stop this Graveyard from getting more done. Arrows come in but do not clean up that defense quite enough. Down to under 1,300 HP right-hand side, though. Musketeer in response to the Night Witch. Magic Archer high. And those bats going to get the Magic Archer off the board but don't really protect the Musketeer. And there you go, Goblin Barrel to the left-hand lane now. That one going to get a few shots. Ewiz comes in high, 1393. We are in sudden death overtime, and this is a very, very close game, but it'll all come down. I think this push will be a big one. Graveyard down, Dark Goblin way in the back, Snowball to clean up. Hog Rider gets one hit, gets two hits, 865. Very, very close on both sides, only about 40 HP. Separating Portugal and Finland. This is a great performance from the Finnish squad. I don't think anyone expected they'd do this well in 2v2 against Portugal, but now Portugal down with a second Graveyard. Freeze comes in. Portugal held onto it forever. The Wallbreaker's trying to pick up that aggro, but that's going to be it. Right-hand tower down. Portugal sat on that freeze for almost an hour and pulls it off at the most important moment. Big-time win. Guys, did it seem like Finland had that, or I mean, it looked like they were in a pretty good spot, and then suddenly everything swung towards the Portuguese?
I don't know. I think the deck is, for the Portuguese deck, was good in double elixir, but Finland could do a good job in single elixir, outcycling and applying a lot of pressure, which would make it hard for Graveyard. But once the Portuguese get into a good cycle, they can just keep applying a lot of pressure, and I feel like over time it just gets out of hand for Finland.
And Portugal definitely put the answers to that deck. Like they added the answers to that deck with the arrows and the log and poison. So it was just really hard for Finland to keep up once Portugal got the cycle they wanted.
So we were talking about the idea of going back to the same deck, and of course we saw that Finland essentially did that. I don't know if it was the exact same 16 cards, but it was at least very, very close. And then we see Portugal come out. I mean, are you guys thinking that this was just that this deck was chosen because they expected Finland to go back to that Hog Rider bait deck?
Definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
So taking a look at the stats courtesy of Stats Royale, only took 4 graveyards and only took 1 freeze. Got it done. Finland going down in the 2v2, getting their second game win, a 2-1 win for Portugal. But Finland now back to the wall, and Portugal in a pretty good spot. It's going to be very difficult for the Finnish side to beat Portugal in both the 1v1 and King of the Hill. Have crazier things happened here at NTWorlds? Absolutely. Do I expect it to happen here? I don't know. Very, very, very difficult one, and we're expecting most likely Lucas to come out for the 1v1 for Portugal. Lucas, 8.1K player, best finish officially at 57th in the world, and currently competing with the Titans in Orange Crown League. Now, Lucas, if I remember correctly, Lucas is still a pretty young player. Is that correct? Anybody know?
I think Lucas might be like 17 or so. I remember I first played with him like over 2 years ago in an online tournament with like a semi-pro and pro. So he's been around for a really long time, but I think he's about 16 or 17.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I was actually on the same team as you in that tournament because I remember playing with him, and I'm pretty sure we won that tournament. So he's definitely he's been a strong player for a long time in online leagues, but yeah.
So why have we not seen? So Lucas is one of those players who he actually was #1 in his day of the CRL EU qualifiers back in 2018, and a lot of experience in La Copa and SLO, in Orange Crown League, obviously. An 8K player. Any ideas as to why we haven't seen him make the jump to the big leagues?
I feel like there's a lot of players who, I don't know, some players just never get the respect they deserve, and it's just the unfortunate thing that happens to a lot of players, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, it could have to do with just connections. It could have to do with, maybe he's been given some tryouts and just hasn't performed at his best level. But yeah, there's very few spots in CRL considering the amount of strong players there are in competitive leagues. So it's really hard to get a spot.
So that raises an interesting question. You can see Lucas going with the minor rocket cycle that has been so popular, although we'll see if that remains very popular after the minor nerf. And Rocket going to get onto the Magic Archer and Tower. And I'm curious about this question for both of you guys, and take your time to think about it if you need to. What do you think is the total number of players in the world who are at a level that they could be competitive in CRL? This question's been coming around a little bit lately, and I'm very curious to see on your thoughts. There are a lot of talented players, a lot of high-level ladder players, a lot of high-level semi-pro players, but is it 200? Is it 500? Is it 1,000? How many players are really at this skill set?
I only think half the CRL players are at a high level to be good in CRL. So
yeah, I mean, there's a difference between being good and being competitive, because you can be not necessarily the most talented player, but even there are some players who aren't extremely talented who can still have success in 2v2, or they can even beat some of the best players if given the right matchup and stuff. So I mean, it all depends on what exactly your definition of competitive is, but if you're looking at dominant people, there's probably a list of 50 or less, probably less than 50, honestly, maybe 20 players who are going to be at a super high level. And then if you're looking at people who can be competitively viable, I think it jumps to several hundred at least.
So here we go. Lucas way ahead. Mini P.E.K.K.A does connect on the right-hand side, so danger on both sides for the Finnish player Juuso. This minor rocket cycle deck getting the job done. Fireball in, takes the Firecracker off the board, minor to the inside. E-Wiz in response. Firecracker down one more time. Lucas not very far away from finishing. You can see the rocket cycle beginning. Log comes in, rocket comes in. That's going to be it. Lucas easily takes game number 1 against Juuso. Guys, let's talk a little bit about that matchup. Looked like there was really no place to go for Juuso. Was it that difficult of a matchup, or is Lucas just that much better?
In that matchup, Juuso is whatever it is. He has to make very good use of his Magic Archer, which I don't think he did. And Lucas just needs to stack Firecrackers, use his Ice Spirit Wall, use his mini P.E.K.K.As, and there's not much he can do if he doesn't use his Magic Archer as well.
Yeah, it's a pretty tough matchup for Juuso, I think. Like George said, though, he really has to utilize the Magic Archer if he is going to win that.
So we'll be with the stats in just a moment and take a look at those. But tough first out for Juuso. I don't Maybe the J is that Y signed in Finnish. I'm not entirely sure. We'll go with Yuso. Why not? It's more fun. And Lucas playing it pretty clean. Never really in any difficulty at all. Firecracker playing a big role in that. We saw them stack a couple of times. And Firecracker seems to be controversial as a card so far. Some people saying that the knockback makes it really fun and interesting and that it's a well-balanced card due to it. Some people saying the knockback makes it into a nightmare and kind of a game-breaking card. So let's take a look at the stats courtesy of Stats Royale. And as you can see, Minor Rockets took care of business. Log cycling in there as well. Yuso never really able to get on tower. And let's throw that question to you guys. I'll start with you, Dip. The Firecracker. Do you like the knockback feature, or do you dislike it?
I honestly dislike the card. I think it's just, I don't know, there's something that just shouldn't be in the game. I think it's just too different for what's in the game, and it just has a lot of like clunky, like bad interactions. I just don't think is healthy for the game.
So one against Carter. Are you in the same boat, or are you for the Firecracker?
I mean, I think it can be kind of fun to play at times, but it just, I really don't like it overall. It's so obnoxious to play against if you don't have the right answers in your deck, because, you know, they just start stacking them, and then, like, you know, every time you're about to kill it, then it, like, takes 20 steps backwards, and then, you know, they protect it with an Ice Golem and then a Mini P.E.K.K.A, and then they have, like, 4 Firecrackers down next thing you know, and it's just game over.
Well, that was game over for Lucas. So far, the verdict 0-2. I happen to like Firecracker, but I'm not as good at this game as the two guys on voice with me. So here we go. Lucas, game number 1 in the books. Portugal should be able to close things out here in 1v1. Yuso needs to win 2 in a row to keep Finland alive. Of course, Finland already eliminated from the out rounds. Portugal needs a win now to put the pressure on the Netherlands. As a reminder, if Portugal wins this one, they do not necessarily go on. They have to wait to see if the Dutch side wins or loses against Germany. Because of the way that all of these this round robin has gone, it's not an immediate tiebreaker. Even though Portugal beat the Netherlands, if it would be a 3-way 2-1 tie, it would come down to set differential. And if the Netherlands beats Germany, the Netherlands would go on. If they lose, Portugal would go through. So that's going to be a big one. Sparky down for Juso, and just barely picked up, and doing everything he can as Lucas to keep that Sparky off tower, and he does. Very cleanly played by the Portuguese player.
Yeah, so Lucas should be in a good spot here with the Minor Rocket deck against Sparky. As long as he can, I'm guessing this is Goblin Giant with Lightning, so as long as he can protect his Mini P.E.K.K.As and not give too much lightning value with the Goblin Giant pushes, he should be able to pull away with this win.
Earthquake has been the more popular Goblin Giant deck this meta. We'll see if that's the direction that Yuso's going, or if it's the Lightning version, as Carter says. Miner to the back, picked up by the Hunter on the left-hand side. Firecracker to the right-hand side. Mega Minion should go down fairly quickly here, and now we're talking about those stacked Firecrackers. Second Firecracker down. Now, this is an interesting question for you, and you know, Dip, you might have some more thoughts on this one. You're looking at these two players, right? You see Lucas playing a fast cycle deck with lots of management of micro. You see Yuso going with a heavier deck with a lot less decision making. If you were the coaches of these two players, are these the kind of decks you would choose for them, given the difference in experience level and maybe skill set?
I mean, I think it depends more on their play style than anything. Some players like cycle, some players gravitate more towards beatdown. So, I mean, I think it's personal preference. I would say go for comfort decks, especially for Juso, just because, like you said, he doesn't have a lot of experience, so it's going to probably be harder for him to make smart decisions on the fly.
Miner in does not survive. The rocket does not get there quite in time. Yuso ahead as we enter into sudden death overtime, but damage in both lanes for the moment by Lucas. A lot of lane switching so far by Lucas with this Miner Rocket cycle deck. And Miner to the back completely untouched. That's going to be a wealth of damage. Yuso looking to load up in the right-hand lane. Hunter behind, and that's a pretty solid lightning. Goblin Giant gets on tower, gets one stab in. Hunter does not quite get it close enough for the splash damage, and now Sparky going into the left-hand lane to defend against that Firecracker that will dodge back a little bit. This miner picked up. Final minute 20. Yuso playing the heavier deck. Does that deck get any sort of advantage, or as we get towards a triple, does the fast cycle and ability to start stacking give Lucas the advantage here?
Lucas definitely has the advantage triple elixir, especially just with the ability rocket cycle and the cycle of the stack. Like, yeah, he just won here just because of the rocket cycle, and even if it was a little like farther apart in triple, Lucas can just cycle so ridiculously fast, almost let Yuso not even push, and then they'll just chip him out pretty easily.
As we just saw, Yuso going down, quick rocket cycling from Lucas to close things out, and Portugal does their job. They get it done. They did what they had to do. And now they just have to sit back and wait for the Netherlands versus Germany, which will take place at the top of the hour. So to put that in context, with Portugal winning, they move to 2-1. Portugal beat the Netherlands. If the Netherlands beats Germany, we'll have a three-way triangle tie because Germany beat Portugal, Portugal beat Netherlands. If Netherlands beats Germany, then it will come down to set differential, and by definition, the Netherlands will have that advantage over Portugal because of their current set differential. Portugal, even with the win, cannot surpass them in that. But if the Netherlands loses to Germany, Portugal goes through, the Dutch go home. And if both you guys, question for you, how bad do you think Morten wants to send Surgical Goblin and the Netherlands team home from this tournament?
More than anything. I think Germany is more than ready for this game, especially 3 of their players finishing top 50 last season. Morten finishing 11th, Faust finishing 12th, and Sam finishing 46th. They're all in the tip-top shape right now. I don't see Morten losing this match today.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really, really difficult for the Netherlands. Germany maybe has the most experienced 2v2 duo in the entire competition. And then, Faust is also just like an extremely good semi-pro player. So, I mean, you never know, but it's going to be super hard for the Netherlands to come away with the win.
Here we go, looking at the replay. This will be the finish. And at this stage, just not quite enough. As my co-host today mentioned, if you're just joining us right now, CRL veterans Carter and trainer Dippets both on the line for this and our next final match of the day. And at this stage, the rocket cycle and the rocket log cycle for Lucas just too much for Yuso to keep up with, and Finland goes home empty-handed from this tournament. 0-3 overall for the Finnish side, and Portugal now just has to sit back and wait and see what happens. But as mentioned, a very talented 2v2 duo in Germany. We'll talk about them extensively. Of course, a really good semi-pro trifecta, not just Faust, but Schwarzen and Wolfsdoktor, also very talented players as well. Up against a Dutch side, we'll get into them. It has so far been Surgical Goblin and Loweye in the 2v2 with Bob the Rock as the 1v1 player. And we'll talk a little bit more about all that as we move on, but I'm very curious to see if they make a switch, if they move Bob with his 2v2 experience into 2v2 as well, and let Surgical Goblin go into the 1v1. Guys, we're going to talk about that match more as we get to it, but we have a couple moments here. What do you think? If you were watching the last match of the Netherlands, Bob the Rock had a tower down, played his EQ defensively rather than on tower because he didn't immediately recognize that the EQ would take tower down. Do you pull him and put him back in 2v2, and do you put Surgical Goblin in the 1v1?
I think in this situation, especially if I was Surge, I would put myself in the 1v1. I think they have different combos they can work with in twos, and if there's anybody you need on a team to clutch up when it matters most, I would put Surge in.
Carter, same thoughts?
Yeah, I think I would have to agree with that. I wouldn't blame them for putting Bob the Rock in the 1v1 set. He is a beast, but Surgical Goblin just one of the most experienced players, one of the most clutch players. Just really hard to not put him in that 1v1 set.
And then here's the other half of that question, though. So far, it's been Morten as the 2v2 guy coming out for Germany, and they didn't even play Morten and Sam in their last 2v2 match. That was a big one. Instead, I believe that Sam sat out the 2v2, and it was Morton coming in with I want to say it was Schwarzen, maybe. Let me go take a look and confirm
I think it was
that. Wolfstocker.
Yeah.
Yeah, Morton and Wolfstocker for the 2v2. I'm wondering now if you're looking at this matchup with Germany, do you go with Sam and Morton in the 2v2, or do you take Morton out and put him in the 1v1, expecting that Germany will be facing up against Surgical Goblin in that set?
Honestly, if I was Germany, I think I would go as strong as a 2v2 as I can today. I would almost want to try to guarantee one set because they know that they have a stronger 2v2 than the Netherlands. And then put Faust, who's a great player in the 1v1, who could beat almost anyone on a good day. So I would try to guarantee at least one set, especially if I'm expecting Surgical in the 1v1 set.
Yeah, I pretty much completely agree with what Dippet said. I think Germany probably has the strongest 2v2 duo in the whole tournament with Sam and Morton. So I mean, I would stick with that, and Faust could definitely beat Surgical Goblin even, and that would be a little bit of an upset, but that guy is definitely a beast. He definitely could win. And then even if they don't win the 1v1 set, the 2v2 set is almost a sure thing with Morton and Sam. And then the German rosters are really deep too with Sam, Morton, and then whichever one of their semi-pro guys they decide to put in to round out the roster. But yeah, I mean, the match definitely could go either way. You can't count any team with Surgical Goblin out, but the German team is just really solid all around in every deck. The roster is pretty deep, so I would pick them to win, but it should be a fun match.
Well, a lot on the line. The Netherlands has to win to move on, but if they're going to do that, they have to get through a really nasty German side. Now, to put in context, Germany is guaranteed through no matter what. Germany, because of set differential, neither the Dutch squad nor the Portuguese squad, I believe, can surpass them at this point. Certainly not the Portuguese squad. So even if they lose, that the German side is still going to go through. So really the question now is, will Germany be joined in the group of 16 by either Portugal or by the Netherlands? Or we're going to find out here in just a little bit. And taking a look at the Dutch roster here, of course, Surgical Goblin, very, very well known. If you play this game, you probably know who he is. Bob the Rock. You might not know Bob the Rock as a viewer, but you can hear the respect that both of my co-hosts today have for Bob, a very talented player who has a pretty significant chance at making, I think, CRL potentially in the future with the way he's been playing. And just to give you a picture of how these playoffs are going to work, we are going to see 16 teams moving through to the opening round and then quarterfinals, semifinals, and a world championship. It is not going to be double elimination. It'll be single elimination. These colors are based on regional. So the green is going to be your Americas regions, the red is the European region, and yellow is the Asian region group. As you see, they're going to split these different regional groups into different sides of the board for the draw. We're trying to do our best to mix it up now that we are into the bracket stage and out of the group stage. So they are going to separate these different groups into different sides so that they can properly draw them in for our round of 16. And then, of course, they will put the lone Asian region in with the final European region, trying to randomize this draw as much as possible while also separating so that we're not getting as many regional matchups as we had in the group stage, trying to keep those teams on opposite sides and opposite ends of those brackets. And then once we do have the groups pulled, then we're going to go in and look at the individual groups and pull out the number 1 and number 2 seed from each individual group and separate those two to opposite sides of the board. So as you can see from Group B, 1B and 2B will go to opposite sides, and the first team drawn from the other side, 1A and 2A, will go to opposite sides. So in that first round, 2 teams from the same group will be on opposite sides of the bracket. They will not meet again until the actual grand final. And then you also see that a 1 seed will always play against a 2 seed coming out of that group stage. So that's going to be the way we do our randomized draw for the out rounds for the bracket stage. And hopefully we get some really interesting matchups that will be randomized. Here is our schedule, as we've seen it so far. To remind you guys who are watching, Italy opened things off today by beating Serbia. They will move on. Serbia goes home. And the United Kingdom with a really tough loss against Turkey. Turkey will go through the UK, ending their No-Tilt Worlds campaign today. Portugal just took care of business against Finland with a clean 2-0 sweep. And now it all comes down to this in Group E. The Netherlands needing the win over Germany to move on. We'll see if that's possible. It's going to be a difficult one. Germany with a very stacked roster. Netherlands with some very talented players. We'll talk about Bob the Rock a little bit more later. I'm sure we'll get in as we see him. And very curious to see what the 2v2 roster will be for the Netherlands. So stick around. Don't go anywhere. At the top of the hour, we will be returning with those matchups. And as long as we're here for another moment, don't forget to hit subscribe on the No Tilt YouTube page to make sure you don't miss any of the action here at No Tilt Worlds. And you can go ahead and ring that bell for notifications. We are just ending the group stage today and tomorrow, and then starting later in the week, we'll move on into the bracket rounds. I'm Rich Slayton. I'll be back a little bit later in about 20 minutes with myself, Carter, and Trainer Dippets for this great match between Germany and the Netherlands. And we are back. Hello, everybody. I'm Rich Slayton from Clash Royale League. This is No Tilt Worlds, and this is the match you've all been waiting for, possibly the most anticipated match of this entire tournament. Germany and the Netherlands. Will we see Morten and Surgical Goblin go head-to-head one more time? It's on the line for the Dutch squad. This is No Tilt Worlds. So looking at our schedule for today, and as you can see, already some big news. Team UK out of the tournament, courtesy of Turkey and, of course, Italy earlier on. Italy will be going through as well. Serbia done for this event. Portugal beats Finland, and now they put the pressure on the Netherlands. Surgical Goblin wanting to lead his squad into the round of 16, but one of the toughest outs in the entire tournament across from him, Germany, which has the SK2v2 duo Morten and Sam mixed in, and of course some really excellent semi-pro talent that might possibly have a significant pro future, potentially. We'll see. This could be a big feather in the cap on the way to getting it done. And once again, joining me on voice, two Clash Royale pros with CRL experience, Carter and Trainer Dippets, both hanging out for us for this one. And one more look at the overall worldview. Germany has guaranteed their qualification. They are definitely through because of set differential. Portugal currently ahead of the Dutch squad, but if Netherlands wins, they will have a better set differential, and they will go through. If the Netherlands loses, Portugal goes through, and they go back to their northern home. Germany versus the Netherlands. And we talked about this a little bit before the break. Trainer Dippets, Carter, you guys are, I think you're both back with me here. Let's take a look at this lineup. Wolfsdoctor, OP Sam, Morten, and Black Pearl getting mixed in. Anybody else here shocked that Faust is not in the lineup?
Yeah. I don't even know who Black Pearl is, so...
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as George here. Like, Faust is an absolute beast. Finished 12th on ladder. I'm not sure if he is busy today or what the deal is, but very surprised to not see him in the lineup.
And I'm looking at my notes here. Black Pearl is Lucas, who's an 8K player, 41st in the world.
I just saw that on Twitter as well. Yeah, so, okay. Black Pearl's better than I thought, but with this roster, I am expecting probably Morten and maybe Wolfsdoctor again in the 2v2.
That'd be an interesting,
I think that's a fair assumption.
Interesting wrinkle. And then over on the other side, are we all thinking that Surgical Goblin gets pulled from 2v2, goes into 1v1, and we move Bob into 2v2 with maybe Loei?
Yeah, I'm expecting probably Loei and Bob, or who's the other Dutch starter? Loei. Oh,
Dion.
Huh. Well, as we see here.
Whoa, taking a look at these 2v2 rosters. Wolfsdoctor and OP Sam as 2v2 for the German side. Surgical Goblin not moving to the Dutch into 1v1. It'll be Surgical Goblin and Bob the Rock in 2v2. So we were right on Bob moving into 2v2. We were very, very wrong on the other side. Surgical Goblin will not be the 1v1 player for the Netherlands. What a fascinating turn of events. So here we go. Germany at the bottom, Netherlands at the top. Surge and Bob. Of course, you know, people know Surgical Goblin primarily as a 1v1 player, but you cannot forget the run that he and Canario went on in CRL Season 2 in the spring split for 2019, where 5 matches in a row, Canario and Surge won the match for Liquid on their own, winning 2v2 and then winning King of the Hill, which was at the time the second set. So Surge, no stranger to 2v2 with a lifetime win rate of 59% in the opening set. Bob the Rock, also lots of 2v2 experience in CCS, going 9-1 overall in sets, 19-8 in games with his partner St. Belican, and that's why he and Belly are still together at Cream in the Orange Crown League.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the very least statistically, Surgical Goblin and Bob the Rock are probably the Netherlands' 2 strongest players, probably in 1v1 and 2v2, so very interesting to see both of them here in the 2v2 set, and I'll be curious to see who they decide to put into the 1v1 set.
Wolfstalker, a talented semi-pro in his own right, currently playing in Orange Crown League with S2V Esports, and the CCS World Champion with Existence, part of that squad that did a great job winning that semi-pro tournament that was concurrent with CRL. Of course, it was Faust who closed things out there, but Wolfstalker had a great CCS run overall and quite a bit of 2v2 experience, playing 26 games of 2v2 in Clash Contender Series.
Yeah, I love the look of this deck from Sam and Wolfstalker. Looks like a really fun deck, and you know, the healer piggies combo, really cool.
And the Royal Hogs coming repeatedly for the German side into that left-hand lane. We do know how much the Germans love their piggies. Sam and Morton have been a fan of it, and they have run Royal Hogs in 2v2 quite a bit themselves. So Poison comes down. Most of that graveyard not able to get through. Bomb Tower, pretty nasty counter overall to Royal Hogs. You know, looking at this 2v2 deck from the Netherlands, do you think it might have been a deck built in expectation of facing Royal Hogs, knowing how much the Germans like that card?
They honestly, I don't think the Netherlands has great counters, considering the like Germany has Earthquake for that Bomb Tower, and then other than that, the only really good counter they have for Royal Hogs is Dark Prince. So if Netherlands was expecting this, they probably would have gone for like Mega Knights or Fireballs or something like that. But regardless of that, Netherlands definitely has a decent chance to still be able to win this game. It's not a bad matchup, it's just not like a snipe or anything.
Here we go, 1 minute left in sudden death overtime, 890, 889 right-hand side.
Yeah, a bit of a premature freeze there, not really hitting the Night Witch or the Flying Machine. But they still got some pretty solid chip damage, so if they can defend here, it should be GG.
Royal Hogs left-hand lane for the German side, EQ down. And a second pair of Royal Hogs immediately after that comes down, and a high freeze on defense. Two Royal Hogs sneak through. Magic Archer down as well. Log comes down. Sam and Wolfstalker steal it back from the Dutch side. The Netherlands could not keep up with the Royal Hogs on the left-hand side, despite getting that right-hand tower potentially into spell cycle range. Germany takes game number 1 of 2v2, so loading up with Surgical Goblin and Bob the Rock in 2v2 doesn't pay off in the first game. So Trainer Dippets, after seeing that first almost 5 minutes of gameplay, what are your thoughts on this matchup?
That was a bit crazy. I don't think that was that bad of a matchup for the Netherlands. I saw, for Germany. I saw Wolfstalker made a bit of like a couple mistakes, which I think would made it not so close. But having Sam running Royal Hogs is always a good option. So I think they did their analysis, figured out that maybe Royal Hogs was a good deck, so they put Sam in there. And then I could see Serge and Bob probably wanted to try to run their best 2v2 to almost guarantee a set, like I was saying Germany would try to do. So I hope that's backfiring as at the moment.
So here we go, game number 1 in the books. Stats courtesy of our friends at Stats Royale. If you want to know what chest you have next, go to statsroyale.com, because they will tell you. Sam and Wolfstalker running Royal Hogs. 9 Royal Hogs played. That's quite a lot of piggies on the board over the course of that entire game, and you can see the Dutch side unable to really get things moving. Got the right-hand tower down low, but as we can take a look at their overall hands, a little bit low on direct spell damage. Only the arrows, the log, and the poison making significant chunks out of that right-hand tower. The freeze, while it does do damage, not really a tower killer these days. So what do you think? Do you think the German side goes back to the piggies one more time, or do they try to be unpredictable here?
I think the Dutch team will definitely be ready for Hogs this time. I'm even expecting probably them to be running Mega Knight this game. So I think Germany will switch, and I think the Netherlands will switch. But we'll just have to see if the Germany expects or what they expect from Netherlands.
So here we go, taking a look at the replay for that finish. Right-hand tower down to just about 300 HP, and see the first set of Royal Hogs comes in. EQ cleans out the bomb tower, and then the Dark Prince comes in high. The freeze misses 2 of the piggies, so that's a rough one there. Freeze played a little bit high. It looked like that freeze was in the Surgical Goblin's hand. I couldn't tell exactly, but it looked like it was Surge's freeze. And it comes down and does not pick up all the pigs to escape, and that's all she wrote. Looking back on that one, do you think if that freeze catches all 4 piggies, we're looking at a different result here?
Yeah, because I think the freeze left the 2 hogs through, which got a lot of damage, and maybe they could have kept pressuring, but I think that would have almost definitely won them the game.
Yeah, and I don't think they wouldn't have been able to get those magic archer snipes in either, most likely. So yeah, I think they just needed like 300 more damage to take out the other tower the Netherlands did, so that was definitely a game changer.
Split wall breakers high for the Dutch side to open things up. Remember, Tornado, the only banned card, banned on both sides of the board. There's a lot of options for this 2v2. Minor wall breakers, minor to the back, wall breakers up high. Baby Dragon and Log will clean that up fairly easily. Giant Skeleton protects the Magic Archer. And that Giant Skeleton, there you go. Mini Peck to the inside and setting that Giant into the right-hand side. There seemed like there was a phase where we saw some more Giant in 2v2, but I feel like you don't see a ton of Giant in 2v2 over 2019 at least.
Yeah, I think SK was one of the only teams who played Giant this past season in CRL, so they're obviously playing some of their favorite decks today with the Royal Hogs, and now again with the Giant.
One wall breaker does connect left-hand side. Minor getting that tower to under 1,000 HP. The Germans have barely touched the Dutch side so far. It has been all Holland in this game number 2 as we reach the midway point of regulation time.
Yeah, and those minor bats do like so much damage. I don't see how Germany's gonna be able to come back from a deficit this large.
We'll see if they can make it happen, setting up Giant to the right-hand lane. So is this purely a double beatdown deck, or is there something else, another wrinkle up the sleeve of this deck for the German side?
They probably got Rocket in there somewhere. A lot of Giant decks have Rocket or Rage. Knowing Sam, it'll probably have Rage.
Yeah, probably Rage.
Yeah, but honestly, Giant Skeleton just does such a good job against beatdown decks. So, yeah, I don't see Germany coming back here.
Minor goes right to the E-Wiz. Magic Archer getting poisoned off on that right-hand side. A decent amount of troops on the left-hand side, but not able to break through. E-Wiz Magic Archer just holding strong. Germany finding no way to break through. Minor to the right-hand side does not get picked up. Skeletons are late. That's going to be a lot on that right-hand side now. Easily inside spell cycle range. Magic Archer gets a couple of piercing shots through. Giant Skeleton gonna go down at the bridge and will take care of all those troops. Not gonna be enough here. The Netherlands should easily win this one. Cannot imagine Germany being able to do anything at this stage. Rocket comes down. No risking anything for the Dutch side in game number 2. Good games come out from Bob and Surgical Goblin, and we are all tied up in the 2v2. You have to imagine the Netherlands really, really wants to get this 2v2 because they know who's waiting for them in the 1v1. And in the 1v1, it's gonna be Morton. There's no way it's not Morton in the 1v1. Lucas, solid player, Black Pearl if you're seeing on the roster, but Lucas solid player, but there's no way it's not Morton in the 1v1. So the Netherlands really wants this one because as fine of players as Loai and Dion are, you're going up against someone who, I mean, where do you guys put Morton in terms of ranking players in competitive play? A lot of people say he is the best competitive player on the planet. Is he number 1 right now in your books?
I think you can definitely make the case for him being first, but I think it's hard to pinpoint who exactly is first right now.
Yeah, I would say he was, if you were to look at like CRL MVP for the past season, he would be the MVP hands down. But like right now, there's a ton of players that are playing at a great level. You know, LC is one that has really been standing out through the group stage of this competition. He's made some insane plays. But yeah, Morton definitely one of the best players in the world. But talking about the 2v2 a little bit, honestly, Bob the Rock and Surgical, this probably should have been a 2v2 or a 2-0 in the 2v2 if it wasn't for that misplaced freeze in the first game. So, you know, Germany's gonna have to figure something out because they can't rely on the Netherlands making another big mistake in the third game here.
And there's the Rage you talked about. Didn't get played in Wolfsdokter's hands, but you can see the Rage was in that deck, so good call from the CRL players. And to answer the question in chat, the two players joining me on voice today, Carter and Trainer Dippets, two very experienced pros who've been in CRL and beyond, giving a little extra insight and analysis onto both these matches and these players. And you saw they got the call right. They were like, well, it's Sam, so there's probably going to be a Rage somewhere in that giant deck. Rage was more popular, not very popular in CRL West. Typically the Lumberjack gets mixed into 2v2. But in 2v2, Rage more popular in CRL Asia and CRL China. Seeing it mixed in a little bit here. The Germans may be picking up a note after their turn through WCG. Here we go. Game number 3. Surge and Bob, top of your screen. Wolfsdokter and Sam, bottom of your screen. And it's going to be Lava Hound for the Netherlands. And Lava both directions. So you guys have both played Lava-Lava matchup in 2v2. How similar is Lava versus Lava in 2v2 to 1v1? How many principles of playing that matchup apply when you move it into the 2v2 side?
It's much more simple in 1v1. and 2v2, there's always just more moving parts. But especially like in 2v2, pretty much Lava decks are going to have pretty much every air card in the game. So I mean, it's very dependent on the specific cards that each team has. You know, like how many Inferno Dragons, how many Mega Minions, how many Baby Dragons, all that kind of stuff. And then, you know, it can really go either way, because a lot of times it just comes down to stuff like minor poison chip, but I don't know, it's a very grindy matchup usually.
And a bit of an look at this Rage being played by Germany. So 2 decks in a row, Rage coming out for the German side and not able to use it to break through. One Lava Pup gets on tower. And still pretty even in Elixir are these two sides, and fairly even in damage. Slight lead right now for the Dutch team. So Lava's going opposite directions for these two. And Zap to retarget. Mini P.E.K.K.A is currently uncontested, and that Mini P.E.K.K.A walks right up to the tower. Final 45 seconds. What does the Dutch side need to do to get back in this one?
I think they definitely need to win this trade-off here, not let Germany apply a lot of pressure, and possibly even go other lane or just continue to stack one lane as they're doing here. The Dutch team seems to be in a pretty good situation here to come back, but if Germany can keep their troops alive and then place a Lava in front, it'll be I think they'll easily get the win.
Arrows coming out, cleaning up a lot. Poison in from the Dutch team. Miner picked up by the Mini P.E.K.K.A in the back. And here we go. Counter push coming from Germany. Lava Hound pops fairly early. And here comes the Rage. Here comes the Rage. Can they use it to break through? Eating right through that Mega Minion. The Inferno Dragon does not get its burn on tower. Baby Dragon stops at Fireball value. Does take the Flying Machine off the board. And that's a huge belch. That should be it. Arrows come in. Zap comes in. And Germany takes that one. Guys, the Rage, such a fun and interesting variable put in there. Didn't pay off the first time. But now that you're seeing how the Rage worked in the end to close things out, what are your thoughts on Rage and 2v2? Carter, we'll start with you.
Rage is a very interesting card in 2v2. Honestly, it didn't do a ton that game. And they kind of had it like in place of where the miner usually is. Um, but I mean, I don't know. It's definitely interesting.
George, any thoughts?
Rage, I don't know. Last season, Boofmac finished really well while using a Rage deck, and Rage has been used a little bit in Giant decks before. Hasn't really been used much in other decks, but using it here in Lava, it seemed to work out well. I honestly would not be surprised at all if we see it making its way to the game. I think people are finally starting to understand the card a bit more.
Do you think it has a place in head-to-head play, or is it purely, is it really going to be more in 2v2 because of the depth of a deck with 16 cards rather than 8?
Definitely, it's more viable in 2v2, but as we saw, I think it can be used in Sparky and head-to-head. But besides that, I don't know. I don't see it being too valuable. It could be used in some beatdown decks. I don't know. We'll have to see. A lot of testing will go into it, but it's definitely an interesting card.
Sure, I can imagine. Yeah, Carter.
Yeah, pretty much like George said. It's pretty much in 1v1 only good with Sparky. I have seen it here and there with just like giant double prints or giant mini P.E.K.K.A decks or even Elixir Gold mini P.E.K.K.A decks. Just not super high on ladder, but just around. But it's definitely a lot more suited for 2v2 because, you know, you have a lot more room to fit in a card that is a little bit awkward to cycle, like a Rage.
So here we go, looking at that final sequence. And this was the bridge battle that we were talking about. And here we go. You can take a look at the Rage as it comes up right when the lava pops. You see that most of those pups go down fairly quickly, but all those troops at the bridge, the Rage is giving them a little extra boost to win the bridge battle. And this Fireball should be the one that cleans things all the way up. Baby Dragon sneaks on through, one belch, and there you have it. Gets things done. And now Germany goes into 1v1 with an advantage, not only in sets, but also now they head into 1v1 with one of the best competitive players, and as Carter said, certainly an MVP in the last season. In my opinion, I've said that he's at least an MVP candidate in all 3 seasons of CRL, West, EU, whatever you want to put it, over the last few years. Morton, a fantastic 2v2 player, a great head-to-head player, and we're going to be seeing him face off against either Loei or Dion. My guess here is we're going to see Loei. Do you guys have the same opinion?
Yeah, Loei is definitely more prepared, and Dion, I haven't seen him run the game much. I would say Loei is kind of like their guy they need.
Yeah, I would definitely expect Loei as well. And yeah, as you can see here, it is going to be Loei.
So this is interesting. You know, you guys know both these players very well. You've played against them. You've planned against them. Obviously, you know, you don't ever bet against Morton just from a skill set standpoint. How do these two guys match up from a deck pool standpoint? And George, I think this is probably more of a question for you, being the analyst that the analyst you've been for such a long time.
Loei is definitely a big time like graveyard player, miner player, Royal Hogs player, and then Morton can use a bit of everything, to be honest. From so far, I'm expecting possibly either graveyard. Graveyard seems likely from Morton, and then Loei either graveyard as well or golem. Well, I guess I'm wrong about Morton with so far. I'm not sure what Morton's deck is. I think Morton's just gonna try to do whatever he can to catch people off guard because he knows he can do anything. Morton's just he's at the top and he can be as unpredictable as he wants. While Loei, yeah, as you can see, he's running graveyard, which is kind of what I expected.
So Loei's graveyard, is it for Giant Miner? I was about to say, is this Giant Miner coming from Morton? And it is. Is this deck going to survive the Miner nerf? Is the Miner chip damage too valuable to Giant Miner that the Giant Miner archetype overall is going to... Is that one of the ones... You know, people are mostly saying Miner chip is going down. Is this one of the non-Miner chip decks that takes the biggest hit?
No. I would say a deck like this, the Miner mostly comes in for like an extra tank to keep troops behind when you build up pushes and stuff. I don't think... A deck like this, I don't think it'll make too big of a difference. This deck... You usually either you win or you lose. Kind of like, it's not like a chip deck where a lot of games end up really close.
So taking a look at numbers over the course of their seasons, Loei in head-to-head play over his 3 seasons in CRL is 8-12, a 40% win rate. Morton on the other side of it over his 3 seasons in CRL, 24-13 for a 65% win rate overall in Clash Royale. Those are all regular season numbers, not counting playoff or World Finals numbers for either one of those two.
Yeah, and I believe this past season Morton was like 9-1 in games in 1v1 games in the regular season, which is just absurd.
Yeah, 88. He went 7-1 in King of the Hill with a sweep, an 88% clip in that what was the middle set, which will be the final set in the future as we're going to go into that World Finals format. Graveyard down, Night Witch and Log in response, able to mitigate the damage. A bit of a chunk here done by Low-Eye, and Morton really has not found a way on tower at all. And as we enter into double elixir time, you know, Morton is playing the giant deck, but Low-Eye is playing a fairly heavy graveyard. Who has the advantage here as we move into double?
I think Loa has the advantage. Bomb Tower, Loa's deck, or sorry, Morton's deck just has a tough time breaking through Bomb Tower, while Loa has Baby Dragon, which he can play into Morton's Baby Dragon, which is kind of the only way I feel Morton will get damage at this point is Baby Dragons and Miners.
Little damage from the Baby D left-hand side, 19-23, 90 seconds remaining. And a best of 3, anything can happen. Matchup certainly important. And right now, as you can hear from Trainer Dippets, Low-Eye in a good spot, but if anyone can play through a bad matchup, Morton's one of those guys. And there you go, Morton taking the lead, 1707 left-hand side, 1782 for the German. Baby Dragon will not survive long enough to get on tower. Here we go. Final minute, triple elixir time. He had the Night Witch Baby Dragon back. Barb Barrel comes in. And that's going to be a fair bit of damage coming in, but not a massive advantage going to the German. So counter push coming. Giant getting in front of the mini P.E.K.K.A. Healthy Baby Dragon. Almost dead Baby Dragon. Miner goes to the inside spot. Night Witch tries to pick up. Does miss the pickup. Log coming in, get a little bit of damage on that Night Witch and get some chip onto that tower. 12:39 left-hand lane. Graveyard coming in. Baby Dragon will be tanking. 2 Baby Dragons across the bridge for Low-Eye. Poison down on defense from Morton. Minor chip going to the front-hand tower. 11:75. Battle Healer gets there a little bit too late. Final 15 seconds. Baby Dragon trying to stop the Night Witches. Can it do it? E-Wiz comes down on the left-hand side as well. 13:65 versus 9:83. Graveyard comes in. Low-Eye, very, very close right now. Taking the lead is Low-Eye, and Low-Eye steals it back in the final few seconds. Game number 1 of the 1v1 going to Germany. Or sorry, going to the Netherlands. What an interesting matchup. And you saw almost able to battle out of it was Morton, but Low-Eye in the end putting a lot of hurt on that tower. George, thoughts on what we just saw?
I think in that matchup, Morton, I'm not sure what he's expecting. Maybe a Miner deck or maybe a different Graveyard deck, because that version was really hard for Morton to break through. I think Loe, he knew exactly what he needed to do to win. He knew Morton didn't have any really heavy-hitting cards, like air cards. So he could just stack Baby Dragons, get a bunch of Night Witches down, get his E-Wizes down, heal it all up, and he could keep it back and forth the whole game, and which is exactly what he did.
So taking a look at Low-Eye overall as a player, is he someone, do you know the answer to this question, is he someone who tends to run back the same deck after a win, or does he usually switch it up?
Loe is a type of player.
Wow, well played by Morton.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm gonna expect Loe maybe will go Lava this game. And then I could see Morton just running whatever deck he wants.
Yeah,
all right.
Morton.
I just reloaded the stream, so let's see if we if that repairs and we get back up again. This one says that it's healthy finally. But yeah, I don't know what that loop is all about. Yep.
Yeah,
right,
back now.
Everyone's saying that we're back. All right, hi everybody. How are you? We are back. Don't really know what happened there. Internet was totally fine. Just OBS completely fell apart. But guess what? Morton won that one. So we are going to a game 3 I honestly have no idea what happened there, so I will keep an eye on that. But suddenly, for some reason, OBS stopped communicating with the server, and we lost the feed for a moment. But we are back. Morton won, and here we are, game number 3, Morton versus Loi, and Germany looking to get it done in 2.
Yeah, well, I guess for the chat, I guess a bit of a rundown of what just happened.
Sure.
Is I think that Morton was definitely expecting Graveyard from Loe, and Morton being, of course, a great minor player, my role breakage player, ran probably the best, one of the best ones he could use against a Graveyard deck, which is what he did, and he pulled out the win fairly easily, I would say.
Here we go, game number 3. Portugal watching this very closely. Morton wins here. Not only does Netherlands go home, but Portugal goes in. And this is an interesting question for both of you guys. You see Morton, who's of course one of the best bait players ever, going bait against Lava Hound. And the big question here is, you see how Morton opened up with the Goblin Barrel in that safe spot because of Tornado. Why don't more people open like that with their first Goblin Barrel?
People just, I think it's always the play. It's the play everyone should do. I think it's the wrong play if you don't. So people just kind of need to be more aware of it. But I think Morton. Ooh, wow, it's gonna be rough for him.
Dark Goblin and Princess, and that Inferno Dragon enters into high gear. 1094 left-hand side, Loi with a very early lead. So obviously, playing from behind with bait is always challenging. If we weren't... Oh, well, that's a pretty big chunk of damage on that left-hand side, and suddenly Morton going to even things up. I was going to say, what are your thoughts on this matchup overall, the early damage notwithstanding?
Well, I think Lois with a lot of elixir would get a lot of damage, but in that situation, Morton's definitely ahead right now. It put Morton to a good spot. He took a bit of damage. He didn't lose his tower, and now I think he's in the driver's seat right now, going to be able to apply a lot of pressure in both lanes with a quick cycle, getting to double elixir. But I also think that Loe was 100% expecting lava, like I said, and countered it with arguably his best deck, which is log bait.
Yeah, I think I definitely think this matchup is really, really good for Morton. It's hard for Loi to get down a good push to get damage. It's not easy for Morton to stop those pushes, but Morton can just apply so much constant pressure while Loi has to, build up a really big push, and then it's even then, Morton has decent ways to defend.
You see Morton able to switch lanes a whole bunch, but this is going to be a pretty big one. Princess high, Mini P.E.K.K.A. and Baby Dragon takes it off the board, and here we go. Lava Hound with a ton behind it into the right-hand lane.
Yeah, just perfect defense almost by Loe. Ooh, I mean by Morton, but really good offense and really good zap by Loe here. Almost taking the tower, but in this situation, he definitely won't be able to come back, honestly. Morton's just going to keep applying pressure and not even let Loe build a push. Yeah.
So not playing the rocket version. Goblins get in, 33 damage left-hand side, so doesn't even need log to the right-hand side. Miner on tower, 37 HP. It goes down. 37 HP. Loi nearly extends it. Unable to, and the Netherlands out of the tournament. Morton goes comfort, pulls out the bait deck for the final, for the game 3, and sends Loi packing. And that got very, very close. If that, one more shot from that miner and that right-hand tower does go down, and in that situation, things get really, really squirrely with the amount of damage on the left-hand side. But no questions asked. Morton shuts him down, and the number one person celebrating right now, another number one team, has to be Portugal. They go through as the Netherlands are out of the tournament with a 1-2 showing here at No Tilt Worlds. Thoughts on that last game? Carter, I'll start with you.
I mean, I think Loi played decently well, but it definitely was a little bit of a difficult matchup considering he didn't really have any very efficient answers for Goblin Barrel. And then just the constant pressure of that log bait deck is really, really difficult to deal with.
And Dip, your thoughts? Yeah, I think that Germany was honestly probably thinking the same thing I was. Loy, I think, went pretty predictable, too predictable, I would say. he was expecting like a Wall Breakers Magic Archer deck from Morton, which is why he ran Lava Fireball with Mini P.E.K.K.A. and Zap. He was just trying to hard snipe Morton, which yeah, just clear didn't work out for him because Morton was, he thought he was in Morton's head, but Morton was in his head.
And in case a reminder for some of you, these two were teammates a long time ago in the early days of SK Gaming before SK decided they were going to build an entire team around Morton. And of course, that's worked out very well for them with their CROS championship. And this was a big moment here for Loei. Gets that right-hand tower down to under 600 HP, a lot of burn on that right-hand side, and some good damage on the left-hand side. And this miner comes in, goes to the number 3 spot, and that fireball makes enough room to get one more shot in, but 37 HP. Loei just a zap away, a miner shot away from getting that tower down, and unfortunately, I didn't have the replay up. Sorry, guys. Unfortunately, not able to close things out and close out that tower and send things on. So Germany goes a clean 3-0 in this tournament. So, you know, we'll take a look. I don't know the entire bracket of who's gone through so far. You know, I'll bring up some of that data here in a moment. But with a win like that and Spain out, what do you guys think? Is Germany, where does Germany rank on your list of favorites in the bracketed rounds? Dip, we'll start with you.
I would honestly pretty safely put Germany as the front runner. Germany, South Korea, China, I think they're all in a very good spot right now, but we just have to see who's able to actually travel to Mexico as well for the finals. So, yeah, we'll see how this all works out.
Yeah, I mean, that'll be a big question to see if the considering the current issues that are going on with COVID-19, if those finals become online rather than a live final. Carter, your thoughts? You know, just before you jump in, let me give you some of the teams that are gone through. So far qualified already is Brazil, Chile, France, Romania, Argentina. I believe Argentina already qualified. I could be wrong on that one. Of course, Turkey and Italy both went through today. China and South Korea are both through. Venezuela looks like they will go through. They still have to play a little bit more. Looking at the field at the moment, where do you put Germany on your rankings for the bracket round?
Yeah, so even before the competition had officially started, just seeing the rosters, Germany was my pick to win. And I mean, they 3-0'd the group stage. They're looking really, really good. 2-0'd every match. So I mean, they definitely they have to be my pick to win. But you know, there's so many great teams, so many great players. Like, you'd never know who could upset even an insane team like Germany. So yeah, I don't know.
So guaranteed not to face China in the first round because 2 number 1 seeds will not face each other. Guaranteed not to face Brazil or France in the first round as well. So a lot of the other more stacked teams that are going through will not be their first opponent. We'll see, of course, who makes it into those number 2 spots. And there's your final results from Group E. Germany and Portugal going on from the group stage into the bracket rounds. A clean 3-0 performance from the German side. Very, very stacked. And if you didn't know the names of their currently semi-pro players in Faust, Wolfsdoktor, and Schwarzen, you might know them by the end of this tournament if they can keep on playing like this. Finland goes in an unfortunate 0-3, going to happen a couple of times. But they did show up for their matches, which maybe some of their squads haven't done, and put together the best showing they could. But in the end, it was just Portugal too much. And good on Portugal, too, just close things out. They got a big win over the Dutch side and moving forward. So Germany doing well. Looking at Portugal, what do you guys think of Portugal's chances as we move forward through these bracket stages? You know, we were going through that match earlier. Carter, what are your thoughts on Portugal's performance today and what you see for them as we move into the bracket rounds?
Yeah, I mean, Portugal's performance today was pretty solid. They're definitely a decent team. They didn't have one of the more difficult opponents today, but I mean, you never know really with this competition. Like I feel like I keep saying, but I doubt they'll go super far. Being a 2 seed and probably having to play against a team like China or well, they obviously won't have to play against Germany, but one of the 1 seeds. It's going to be very tough for them, but I mean, we'll see what happens.
And Dip, your thoughts?
Portugal. I honestly, I've been saying from the start, I thought Portugal was really underrated. I thought they could pull out wins. I think like they're very good together. That whole team has been like they've been each other's practice partners. They've been together from the very start. They all play solo together, pretty much. I think they're not a team to be slept on at all.
And Portugal was, not to toot my own horn, but there's a video where Koji and the mobile Matt and I broke down the groups going into the group stage, and my 2 picks as the sleeper picks were Romania and Portugal. So far, I'm looking like Nostradamus. Both those sides do go through to the out rounds. Guys, it's been a lot of fun having Carter and trainer Dippets. Make sure you follow them both on Twitter. And you can link that if you follow me on Twitter at Rich Slayton. I just posted about them, so go follow them as well. That's it for today. Germany finishing the Netherlands. It's been fantastic. We'll be back tomorrow. I believe it'll be Andrew Guy casting tomorrow with the final day of the group stage. This is No Tilt Worlds. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.